Hello and welcome to our next session on the art of listening. Today we want to focus on the ability to listen to ourselves. And why start with ourselves? Surely we want to listen to God, we want to listen to other people and so on. Why start with me? Well, the point is, if I don't know how to listen to myself, then it will be difficult for me to listen to other people. Almost mission impossible. And if I don't know how to listen to what goes on within me, and I therefore don't know how to listen attentively to the people around me, well, you can imagine the difficulty you will experience in trying to listen to God who is invisible, to God who is spirit. And so we need to start with ourselves. We are blessed here in the Friary. We have a big garden next to us, a massive space. But what I'm becoming more aware of during this time of lockdown is how noisy it is. I would tended to think that you go to a garden for some peace and quiet. What you discover here is a constant chatter of various birds and animals. It's non-stop. Apart from that, you discover, actually, there is plenty of background traffic. Cars going by, trucks, buses, all sorts of noises. Neighbors playing their radios, as I mentioned yesterday. The noise is endless. It comes from all sorts of directions. The point is, there's a lot of noise that is internal within us. And it's constant. So what is this noise that I'm talking about? Well, we have our feelings. Those change continually throughout the day. We can go through a whole gamut of feelings within 24 hours. We have our beliefs about ourselves, about other people, about things, situations. We have a set of values that we try to live by. We have our certain attitudes. We have our behavior. All of these in constant flow. Depending on the circumstances, different things come to the surface. We are affected in this way or another by one thing or another. And this cycle continues. The cycle between our thinking, between our feelings, and between our behavior. And so what the Lord is asking us to do is to pay attention to all this noise, to all these messages, because they all have a meaning. We can't deal with all of them. We have to filter things through. But all of it has value and has meaning for us. And so we need to pay attention. Well, what is happening? Because if we don't pay attention, these things will still affect us. It doesn't matter whether I pay attention to my feelings or not, they will affect how I am. And how I am will affect how I deal and respond and relate to the person I live with or I work with. And that in turn also will affect how I relate with God. It will impact my prayer life, my relationship with the Lord. And so I can ignore all these things and still be affected by them. And then I might reach a point that actually life becomes very difficult. Life becomes very challenging to a degree that I find no joy and no fulfillment in this life. It's all a massive chore. And that's the moment for us to stop and say, okay, what's happening to me? And so you might experience a cross in your life. It doesn't have to be the pandemic. The cross can be anything. And that's the time where we can stop and reevaluate and ask ourselves, well, what's happening to me? What's this internal traffic about? Surely the Lord is the Lord of life, He wants me to lead a fulfilled life. Yes, there will be crosses. Yes, there will be pain. But it will be all fulfilling. It will be full of hope. There will be real joy in the midst of all this. And so if I have lost that sense in my life, then I really need to pay attention to what is within me. Don't be afraid of it. Because sometimes we are. We may be afraid of, well, I don't want to find out what's there. I don't want to take responsibility for all that stuff. I won't know where to start or begin with. It's scary. I'd rather not touch it, leave it. But the point is, it affects you. It affects me. And so we have no choice. Because the Lord says, well, it's no point saving the world if in the process you lose yourself. So this is about rediscovering ourselves so that we do not get lost. And so paying attention, well, what do I feel today? What about my beliefs? Are there any that are destructive, not helpful to my well-being, to my growth? There will be a whole number that are totally unrealistic beliefs about myself, about other people. The good news is we can change. And once we can name these things, we can do something about them. And that's the good news. That's what the Lord is trying to convey to us. He's here to bring us life. He wants us to share in His risen life. And He wants us to cooperate with Him. And that's where our part comes into it. To realize that this is all the Lord's doing, and it is wonderful to see that the Lord is working marvels within our own being. And He's helping us to become fully alive, fully human. I'll give you one example of a belief that might affect you in the wrong way. And it's my own example. Due to my illness many years ago, I convinced myself that I couldn't drive a car. And that was a long-held belief for a number of years. No, I can't drive. I'm not able to drive. Many people come along and say, well, Marty, why don't you learn? No, I can't. I can't do this. It's not possible. And so people would leave me alone. It took years for me to realize, well, actually what I was believing about the situation, about myself, was actually not true. And so a belief that you can hold for years can turn out to be untrue, a false belief. And just because it's false and untrue doesn't mean it doesn't have an effect. This one had a real effect on me. I couldn't drive a car. I was limited in what I could do in my life, in how helpful I could be, in things I could offer to do, simply because of that one single belief about myself. How do we change those beliefs? Well, sometimes it might be an influence of another person. The journey for each of us will be different and will be unique. What's important is for us to write down some of those beliefs, to become more aware of them, to actually reflect on myself and say, well, what do I say to myself about myself? You know, am I saying to myself, I'm no good, I can't do this, I can't drive the car, I can't learn, I'm no good with numbers, I can't do administration, I'm no good. And then ask yourself, are these beliefs helpful to me? Are they real? If they have a bit of truth in them, well, then you can respond to that truth and say, okay, so what can I do about it? What can I change? You know, if I feel I can't do this, well, maybe go and take some lessons. How to learn to drive, for example, and to see whether I can or cannot do it. So the importance of paying attention, first of all, to realize and name those things that are taking place within me. The importance of paying attention to how I feel and being able to say, even to myself, this is how I'm feeling right now. I'm really sad. I'm really angry. Or it may be, I'm joyful, I'm happy. That's okay. We all have different emotions, different feelings. But it's usually with those painful ones that we need to work through them. We need to pay attention. And so essentially what I'm inviting you to do is to offer this gift of listening, first of all, to yourself. I've mentioned yesterday how useful and how beneficial the gift of listening is when we do it to other people. It gives that sense of somebody is important to you when you listen to them. You care for them. They matter. Well, the person who should be the most important to you, that matters to you, is yourself. How can you love your neighbor as yourself if you don't know how to do it? And so the expression of love is to listen. And so you learn to love yourself by listening to yourself. And don't be judgmental. Don't cross yourself out, no matter what you find out about yourself. It's simply about coming to terms with and being able to list those things, to become more aware of, well, this is me today. This is what I'm going through. This is what I went through. I realize that I have these beliefs. I realize I have these values. And it's okay. This is who I am today. And remember, the Lord's words are, you are good. I created you good. It's okay. This is a moment of revelation. This is a moment of discovery. Then ask the Lord to help you. If you realize, well, some things need changing, well, tell Him. Turn it into a prayer moment and tell the Lord about yourself. Remember the story of the disciples to Emmaus. Jesus knows before you open your mouth, but He wants you to tell Him. And so pay attention. Find some time to listen to yourself, to take note. And don't judge. Leave the judgments till late. First of all, just be amazed at how much information you are able to process in a given day. What a huge, massive experience of feelings, beliefs, values, attitudes, behavior you go through each day. So learn to be amazed at yourself. It will in turn help you to be amazed at other people as well. God bless.